Okay, cool. So welcome everybody again. And let me briefly take you through the agenda for today. So this meetup will be 1.5 hours. And there will be parts where it's interactive. There will be parts where either John or me, we are sharing some information. But usually it's about communicating with each other, and we'll be in the breakout rooms as well. We will use Mural. But the first thing we are going to do is we are going to talk about the ladder of self-organization. And after that, John will take us on a journey towards self-management in complex systems. And at the end, you will actually experience self-organization yourselves. And the whole idea is that the exercise that we do at the end, that you can replicate it within your teams as well. All right, so that you get a kind of understanding on what the self-organization game is all about. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? No, I see some. No. Let's start. All right, let's start. So we're talking about the ladder of self-organization, and like I mentioned, I'm one part of the Self-Org chefs. And the Self-Org chefs, let me just, because as a chef, we are cooking. So we have this apron on selforgchefs.com. So together with Jordan, we have many years of experience in self-organizing teams, self-organizing organizations. And what we have noticed is that it has gained a lot of popularity in the last few years. You know, and not only on team level, but also on board level. And the main topic in that session is, okay, so what is it? There are a lot of theories on what self-organization is, and derived from our experience and research surrounding these topics, we have come up with a ladder of self-organization. And the first thing I want to tell you about a ladder is a ladder doesn't judge, because a ladder has all steps, and a big ladder is not per se better than a small ladder. Being half of the ladder is not better than being on top of a ladder. It depends on the outcome you want to achieve. Yeah. So this is also what we say if we talk about the self-organization and the ladder. We see a few steps. It's not necessarily that these steps are good or wrong. It just depends on, yeah, what your goal is you want to achieve. Right? So the first step of the ladder is actually self-executing. So with self-executing, we mean teams that are able to decide how they execute stuff. You can imagine that it's Scrum Teams. In the beginning, they are self-executing. So they can decide their own tools. They can decide their way of working. Imagine a Scrum team deciding when to have their daily Scrum. So that's the first step, is all about managing on how they do stuff. You know? And that can be good or bad. That can be from, we have the mechanical Scrum or the zombie Scrum or whatever, all the way up until, you know, we decide our own tools. Either we use Jira or other tools. It's all up to us. We can decide almost anything within our own team. And basically what we have noticed is that's a lot on operational level. So on an operational level, the teams can decide what to do. The second step is self-selecting. So you notice that if teams are more mature, that they will be able to decide on who is in the team, for example. They are able to decide on which skills they need. And they are enabled to maybe even in the hiring and firing. So it's all about the team composition and who is in the team and how they can do stuff. So imagine if you're in self-executing. Yeah, so the team is in self-executing and you need some specialist to join the team. A team in self-executing will not be able to, or at least is not enabled to add that person to it. While if you're in self-selecting, you will notice that the team is mature enough that they will make sure that either the knowledge is in the team or the team member is in the team. So they have a saying in that. And you notice that it's not only operational, but it also reaches a little on tactical level. Because if you can decide on who goes where, that's more on tactical level as well. Do we need more .NET developers or do we need more marketeers in our team? Well, that's tactical level as well. The third step of the ladder is self-designing. And self-designing is, it's all about co-creation. So we have, as an organization, we have this problem, you know? But how does it usually go? Usually is our management, they come up with a solution, and then the developers or the team members, they can say they can influence on it or decide how they can implement it. What self-designing is actually co-creating the solution, like co-creating how the teams are, which teams we actually need, which knowledge do we need. And then you can go to the self-selecting where people select themselves in which team they fit most. So the self-designing is all about which teams do we need to achieve our higher purpose, achieve our product goal maybe, or organization goals. And you will notice that this is on tactical level, but also touches a little on a strategic level. Because if you can decide how the team composition looks like and what the purpose of a team should be, yeah, that touches a lot on strategic level. And what we have been noticing is that in organization, we see a lot of self-execution, a little self-selecting, whereas more and more organizations are experimenting with this. And self-designing, we don't see it that much because, you know, it's kind of scary to involve everybody in a co-creation. But luckily, we do see it more and more happening. And the final step of the top step of the ladder is self-directing. And self-directing can be anything like talking about the purpose of the organization, changing the purpose of the organization. And if we talk about like from professional Scrum point of view, this is where a product owner can decide going into a total new market. You know? So talking about, am I involved to set up a new division for our organization? So this is all about on purpose and on strategic level as well. Okay. And the funny thing about a ladder is, I don't know how many of you have, obviously you have all stepped on a ladder, stood on a ladder, but how many of you have actually tried to jump on a ladder? Yeah, I see some of you smiling. Usually that, yes, yeah, Mark. Mark, honestly, did you fall?
He said it didn't go well.
almost twisted my ankle. Almost
twisted your ankle. Yeah, and that's the same thing with organizations. You know that when you are in a situation and we are seeing an agile transformation all about. All right. So in agile organization, what we see is when agile transformation starts, managers and Scrum masters, agile coaches, product owners, they all want to get like on the highest level of the ladder. Well, that's probably not safe. So it's okay. And that's why we mean like every step of the ladder is good. Because imagine if you cannot self-execute in a team, how on earth can you even ask the team members to co-create the whole organization? That's like a huge step. There might be some knowledge gap, there might be some things. So this is that's why we say there isn't any good or bad on the steps of the ladder. It's just on what your purpose is, and don't forget to climb the ladder instead of jumping on the ladder. Okay. Any questions so far about this model? Because we will do an exercise with all of you. Yeah, Barbara, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yes, you're saying it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong in the steps of the ladder.
Mhm.
But I understand that the first step is a prerequisite for the second step, and so on. So it builds on top of each other, or not?
Yeah, it does build upon each other, just like a regular ladder. If you want to climb all the way on top, you need to take the first step. And just imagine that if your team members are not allowed to make decision on operational level, how engaged will they be if you all of a sudden ask them to think about the purpose of the organization?
Right. Yeah.
Actually, I have seen it myself, because I've done self-designing and self-selecting sessions as well, and I have sometimes it went terribly wrong, because we forgot that some of the team members weren't even self-executing. They didn't take the ownership, or they didn't feel the ownership of taking stuff.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So what I want you to do is, in a minute, we will go into breakout rooms, and some of you have told me you're either in a car or unable to join when there's an open discussion, but that's okay. But what I want you to do is have a talk with each other in your teams, and maybe come up with examples of your daily lives at work, and see, okay, so what kind of example do I have about self-selecting or self-executing or self-designing, or maybe even self-directing? Yeah, so have a chat with each other and try to capture those examples here as well. Yeah, let me share the mural link with all of you. Okay. Yay, people are joining. So we have selected the music team for mural. So everybody is joining as a musical instrument or sports instrument. Yeah. We have the maracas. We have almost everything. And I will, by the way, pause the recording.
And we're back.
Yeah. As a facilitator, this is one of my favorite moments, when people come back and some of you are still talking and laughing. Oh no, the time box is too long.
I think we have 20 seconds left.
Oh really?
Yeah. So, well, it was interesting. So.
Okay, nice. Now I've luckily in the Netherlands we now have the opportunity to have face-to-face classes as well. And I have to say that since we are having these face-to-face classes, we can cover less because of these breakout rooms. Imagine telling them, okay, 10 seconds left, and then they are talking for 1 more minute. It's like, no, you need to come back. And when they come back, they first need to grab a cup of coffee, and then, oh yeah, I think okay, all right. But luckily it's not like this in here. And I'm so sorry that I put you through the time box, but it's for a good cause here.
You're not sorry. You're not sorry, Zirian.
Now, usually when we do courses together, there's always, we can blame the other person for, yeah, he or she set up the time. Yeah, sorry, it's not me. But this time it was me. I can only blame myself. Hey, can any one of you want to share an example of where you were on the ladder in your organization? Is there anything you want to share?
I can start. I had experience, like our team had experience on self-executing and self-selection. But I have a question. What does it mean, this self-designing step? What actually happens in this latter step?
Yeah, what happens in self-designing is that imagine your team keeps on growing and keeps on growing, right? And you notice that within your team the focus goes, and you notice that you're working on multiple products now. And there are a few ways to go about this. A manager can come up, or a Scrum Master or product or whatever can come up with a design and say, okay, I think we need to have 2 new teams. This will be the session, and this will be the goals. This is the knowledge that we have. And by the way, Haysing, you're on team 1. Robert, you're on team 2. Sandy, you're on team 2 as well. That's an approach. We see it often. Another approach can be that, okay, the teams are set up already. So we have the knowledge, and we ask all of you, okay, looking at it, where do you think you fit best? What is your knowledge? Choose. It's up to you if you want to be in A or in B. The self-designing is, I come to you and I tell you, well, we have this issue. So this is the problem which we make transparent. The team is too big. We are working on multiple products. There's no focus. How can we go about this? And then together we design if it's going to be 2 teams, 3 teams, or maybe 1 team or 4 teams or whatever. So that's the designing together. So that's a co-creation part. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you for your answer.
You asked for an example, and I was just telling that in hindsight, it's quite funny because I'm switching teams next week, handing it over to a different Scrum Master, and the team I'm leaving behind actually went through exactly these steps in the past 3.5, 4 years, basically. They started really focused on the operational part, only on doing that, and it was pretty much chaos for that. And I worked a long time with them to increase their value, the trust between each other, basically, and really help them focus on selecting the tools, taking the responsibility for that, demanding responsibility for things as well, in regards to releasing to production and stuff like that. And eventually, once that started to happen more and the rest of the organization started to see that, during time, of course, some people left and a couple of people joined the team, and they started to become really picky about, no, we need someone who is this type of personality, has this type of knowledge. We want to do all the interviews. We're not going to even allow management to pre-select it for us. We want to do it all ourselves. They went through that phase, and then at the time, the team was a little bit too big. I think there were 11 or 12 people in the team. Yeah. Exactly what you said happened. They started to get pretty much two different products. So they decided themselves, okay, it's best if we just split up right now, have one product owner and Scrum Master overarching the bit, where we're going to have 2 sub-teams with all of them have the events separated from each other. And just once every sprint, we're going to check in with each other. Once a week, we do that as well. So they're really designing how they work together. And they also did that with the business part. So they also talked to the business leads, talked to them about what they wanted to achieve and why that was even important, and started to challenge that and started to challenge the business processes that they were told to be working on. So it's really fun looking back in those 3.5 years that they went through exactly these steps as you described them, but also in that exact order. Yeah. So yeah, you asked, I think in the beginning, if I jumped on the ladder somewhere, and I did that with in other situations, but you always fall back to the point where a team or the situation is right now. It doesn't matter where you jump on, basically.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Mark. I love this this example here as well, because then you're totally right. It's like they will find their own path on the ladder. Yeah, awesome. I see another question in chat. Scrum facilitators, is a self-designing team, or does it work on several levels of the ladder at once? That's a good question. Sometimes we are self-directing, sometimes self-designing, sometimes self-executing, and sometimes self-selecting. So yeah, if for example, I want to do, let's say, a safe workshop, well, that's something that I could do, although it doesn't fit within our purpose. So I would ask the rest of it as well. But we work on multiple levels depending on the questions that we have. So that also means that if you go back to your organization, look at the questions that you have and where does it fit, and which one would actually work best. Yeah, I will show you a video of self-selection, which I love very much. So let me share this with you. Share screen, and I will share the link as well. Share sound.
Wat gaan we vandaag doen?
Vandaag hebben we de Tribe Selectiedag van KPN TV.
Nou, we gaan de chapters vandaag zeg maar, laten vormen door de mensen zelf.
Ongeveer een jaar geleden zijn we begonnen met de transformatie naar Agile. En we gaan nu beginnen met de afronding daarvan door te starten met de chapter-indeling.
Deze Agile transformatie is gekozen voor een indeling volgens het Spotify Engineering Culture. Dat betekent dat we uitgaan van één tribe met meerdere squads, dus teams waarin het resultaat geleverd wordt. Iedereen die in een squad zit, zit ook in een vakontwikkelingsgroep, een chapter.
We hebben gekozen voor een dag waarin we zelfselectie gebruiken. Waarin de mensen zichzelf gaan indelen in teams voor het ontwikkelen van hun vakmanschap.
De zelfselectie, het ging bijna vanzelf. We liepen ook steeds voor, zeg maar, in de family waar ik zat. De chaptercoach was al bepaald toen het chapter bepaald was. Echt gewoon super gaaf. Gewoon.
De dag is eigenlijk opgedeeld in een aantal rondes, waarin in de eerste ronde eigenlijk geïnformeerd wordt. Waarbij het leiderschapsteam inzicht geeft in welke chapters er zijn.
Wat we dus willen doen is mensen eigenlijk zelf laten kiezen, waar kan ik nou het meeste groeien en leren. Met gave dingen bezig zijn, waar ze echt energie van krijgen en intrinsiek gemotiveerd zijn. En dat gaan ze vanzelf weer teruggeven in de leverkant van de organisatie, de squads.
Co-creëren met de mensen, dus input vragen van hoe kijk jij tegen chapters aan, wat zie je voor je en de gesprekken erover aangaan.
Dus iedereen wist vrij goed waar die in thuis wil horen. En dat is heel erg leuk.
Dus het is heel squadoverstijgend. En dat we in ieder geval een doel voor ogen hebben om nog beter te worden in ons vak.
Ik moet eerlijk zeggen dat er beter en heldere chapters uit zijn gekomen dan dat ik van tevoren had gedacht. En met name ook om de energie die ik zie en de passie die ik zie bij de mensen die echt in de chapters nu zitten. Ze hebben bewust ervoor gekozen.
Zelfselectie is gewoon, doe het. Heb vertrouwen in je mensen. Bereid het voor, maar laat het vooral los. Mensen zijn super intelligent. Weten wat ze kunnen en wat ze willen. Echt, vertrouw in de mensen. Ze weten het beste.
Right. So I see some people could have chat in chat. Yeah, we could have a time, but John was in it as well. So, and John, unfortunately, his English or his Dutch is still not where it should be, where it could be. Nicole, this was in 2017. But in the meantime, we have done dozens of other self-selection as well. What you have seen in this video is actually a few things, because the event itself, that's the self-selecting. you know. But prior to which chapters do we need, we involved all the colleagues. So it was a period of 1.5 months, or 1 month actually, where we continuously asked them for feedback, asked them for how would you set up, this is our vision, what do you think, what is your feedback on this, how should we set things up, evaluate on it, give another version, ask for feedback again. So at the end, they were part of the co-creation as well. And what we have noticed, and that's the beauty of co-creating on a solution, is that you get buy-in because it's their solution as well. So this is an example of self-selecting, but prior it was self-designing as well. Okay, and I've shared the link here as well. Maru, how often would such events take place? It depends. It depends on when a problem arises or when you think you want to inspect and adapt. So it's an ongoing thing. It's not, and that's also a funny thing. It's not like, okay, we have done the self-selection and that's it. We'll be like this for years. No, you know, it's inspect and adapt. It's gathering feedback. Are we getting the results that we want? Are we getting value? Because we make assumptions based on our on how we do stuff, and we want to address it. So it's not a one-time thing. James?
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, it's just a clarification question, really. So when we're saying self-selection, we're talking about the initial formation of a team and potential changes thereafter as the team identify them, not strictly the selection of work.
Yes. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And this can go as far as hiring and firing, but also as far as taking holidays. You might even say they decide on their own salary. That's like, that's very high. But it's more about the team in itself.
Yeah, it's just very novel for me. I come from a commercial world where teams are formed and then you try to you know, establish high-performing teams from within those that are already pre-selected.
Yeah, exactly. And the road from usually that also start, most transformations start with, okay, management lays down the ground. So you are here, you are here, you are here, and then the transformation starts, which can be good. It's not a bad thing. But how is it on the ladder? Anita?
Yeah, it took a while to find how to put up my hand here. I was wondering, in your experience in KPN, what you were sharing, did you afterwards need to make any changes to their suggestions on how they wanted to self-select themselves or not? And I'm asking because I heard from a different company where they did the same thing with a smaller group of people without telling them any requirements apart from it needs to be X people in the team and so on. And afterwards, they run into issues that a couple of teams selected themselves having the same communication style and having the same attitude towards work, meaning there were very little diversity, and everybody who wouldn't be having the same, how can I politely say, who wouldn't be looking at things the same way as they were would automatically not be selected in the team, ending up them having quite some communication issues in the team, which could have been prevented if agile coaches thought about it before.
Yeah, I love your idea here. So how do you help them to effectively self-select, right?
Yeah, what kind of requirements do you put apart from only like technical skills?
Yeah. And that I think also ties into the question Uni has asked. So who is defining each team? Like how many members should be, what are the skills needed, and so on and so on. So we have the autonomy, because we're talking about autonomy here, right? Autonomy to choose your own teams. Autonomy is in the grace of boundaries. So it's up to senior leadership, up to product owners, scrum masters to define the boundaries, because only within the boundaries you can self-select. And if you don't have boundaries, yeah, then I will choose my best friend. not thinking about organizational goals, if it's the best fit, no, but because I'm the most happy because I know this person. So it's all about setting the boundaries, and that's where Scrum Masters and Agile coaches can help leadership in. Okay, so what are the boundaries in which they can self-select? Yeah, we will experiment with that at the end. But for the sake of time, I also want to get on with the next one. So Abiodun, I will get back to this question later. Yeah. So I want to give the word to John.
Yeah, I actually see some of the questions too, and they're really excellent questions. Let me talk a little bit about complexity and what all this means. And thank you for pointing out, Zirian, that I don't speak a word of Dutch, so I really appreciated the subtitles in the video there. So continue the questions coming. They're really good questions, and I'm going to set my timer to make sure I don't go over my time box. And I'll share my screen, right? You think I should share my screen, Zirian?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we'll do that one. Hopefully you can see the mural again. All right. So what I'm going to be talking about is complexity to start with, and something about complex environments. Now, most of my stuff is pictures. I do have a lot of slides, but most of them is pictures. This first slide I borrowed from the Crisp Consultants blog, which is really helpful. So what this is a typical Agile organization. I wouldn't say typical. I would say I've never seen this before in an Agile organization. It's very structured, but at the same time, it's very much what we're talking about when it comes to self-organization. So we talked about that strategic level. That's the top. And it's very important for people at the top to understand that for a self-organizing team to succeed, they still need that guidance and support, right? So those self-organizing teams, the ones we're talking about at the bottom of the pyramid. And I think that most people in the room here probably fall in the middle of this pyramid. We're the enablers, right? We enable the vision to be seen, the strategy to be executed through the teams that self-organize to produce usable increments in Scrum, as we say. All right, so we need to establish that dialogue, but help build that trust. And it's that trust is what we're really going for. Okay, so the thing about complex teams or complexity is that we can have several types of teams. So this is typically more what it's like. You have teams that fall into one of these personalities, I'll just say, right? So, you have the sinking ship team, the roller coaster team. We've seen all of these, right? So there's just several teams that you can experience when you're talking about an organization that is trying to practice some kind of self-management, self-organization. This is what I was getting to before. It's about complexity, right? Agile works the best in a complex environment, and there's complexities all over the place. So what can we do with these complexities? Well, we also have to realize that there's change all around, and it's always happening. We've all experienced this. I'm big into word clouds, and what I did is, this is an actual word cloud from me and 5 of my Agile colleagues. So 6 of us took 2 minutes, I think it was, to say what is involved with complexity. You can see the big words there: change and culture, right? So it's about culture. It really is. But there's change all around us, but there's so many more factors that go into it. Okay. Is everyone with me kind of? Did I raise more questions, or we good? Okay, cool. All right, I see some heads that are saying yes, we're okay. So Zirian touched on this a little bit. We kind of asked some questions around this. What I wanted to talk about in this next section is what an Agile team is not. Okay. I'm not even talking about putting Scrum or anything, any kind of framework in here. We're just talking about what agility is about. And self-organization is not about putting together a team with no skills or experience. When I start working with an organization that wants to experience what Agile is like, they think, okay, we can just let the team go and with no skills whatsoever, just take them off the street. And that's simply not true. We all know this too, because it takes a team that has some kind of skills to produce, well, in Scrum, done increments, for example, right? So you need at least some kind of experience with whatever the mission is at hand. Okay, I like this slide because it says that the team cannot choose its goals. Okay, Zirin touched on this a little bit with the self-designing team, but in order to be in that self-organization ladder, it's really not a good idea to let the team choose its goals because, hey, they're going to go to Oktoberfest if they want to, right? So that said, we're talking about influence here. So the team can select its goals with, for example, a product owner in place. Okay, so the team does have an influence over the goal, but they are not the one that is really choosing the goal. Needs a strategy. Okay, this one might introduce confusion, so I'm going to go back to the pyramid to describe, or the ladder to describe what this means. But in order to be self-organizing, you don't have to decide on your members. Okay, so let's go back to the ladder. Oh, that's the wrong one. Here's the ladder. Okay, so the ladder, right? We're talking about the bottom of the ladder. You can be self-organizing and still be self-executing. Okay, but this is what I'm talking about here. All right, initially, to be self-selecting, you don't have to be self-organizing. Okay, so initially, a team does not get to choose its members if you're starting off on the ladder on the bottom. So that's what that's about. Okay, another thing that we touched on also is about choosing the tools. Okay, let me clarify this one also. To be self-organizing, you really don't get to choose the tools. However, you get to have a huge influence if you're on the team of being able to select the tools. So let me give you an example. Let's say that a team has decided that they're choosing the technology of .NET to implement some kind of a product. Okay, they can influence the management to buy the tool and say, we need .NET to do this. But there's other things that are associated with that. What's the cost of the tool itself? How long is it going to take to implement it? What effort? How are we going to maintain it, right? So there's a lot of questions that can come up with choosing a tool. So this is not about self-organization, even though they have a high influence on it. Okay, here's another thing that people who are trying to implement a self-organizing organization have a confusion about. And that is the management that is outside the team resolving team conflict. Okay, self-organization is not about management intervention. And many of you are Scrum Masters and you know it's not about the Scrum Masters even resolving the team conflicts. Okay, we can have a high influence over how they resolve their conflict, but management is not the one to intervene. Okay, that even starts at the bottom of the execution part of the ladder, right? So management is not involved with solving the team's conflicts. And on the flip side too, leadership and management does not control the team by being deceptive, sneaky, or manipulative, right? We're enablers. We coach the team on how to make things happen and make the magic go. Okay, any questions about what an Agile team is not? I want to make sure I'm not introducing any more confusion. Nope, good, okay. Oh, we got one. Let's see. I like Aru, if I'm pronouncing your name correct. I really like that comment. Yeah, I appreciate that too. It's one for me too. And introduces a lot of confusion as to when I tell a manager who has, you know, some people from a development team reporting to them to say, you know, you're not there to manipulate them. You're there to coach them. And, you know, as an enabler, it's very important. It's very important. So I appreciate your comment. Any other comments, questions? Zirin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, it's mainly about the manipulation one, because if we talk about self-selecting and self-designing, the worst thing that you can do as in a leadership position is, once the team has selected, then tell them, oh no, this is not correct, we need to change it. If that's your mindset from a leadership point of view, then by all means, please get back to the Excel and just tell them, I want the team to look like this. Don't give them hope that they can self-select. Well, they can only self-select if it meets your view. That's, you lose. Yeah.
Murray, you have a question?
Not really a question, to be fair, so I'm going to be really concise. My comment is, listening to you, I couldn't help but think about two scales on the left and right of this main ladder schema, the very first one you showed us, where the intervention between brackets ism of management, even as enablers, keeps decreasing the further away you get from the highest strategic level. So I'm talking about the very first one that you guys showed us, the one with the ladder metaphor. So yeah, if the more you go away from self-directing, the less interventionism you have from management, even as enablers, up to the level of 0 in self-execution, because otherwise you'd be into extreme micromanagement.
Yep.
But you cannot just, I mean, nobody tells managers, yeah, let them self-direct, let them choose the goals, etc. There will be tactical goals they have to choose. They have to, otherwise they're not going to be growing as a team. And you need them to also feed you with some tactical knowledge. But the more important strategic goals can come from you, and then some of them can be, you know, the result of because they don't have the guardrails, they don't have the constraints you see from your position. You have totally different goals than them, and so that's why I would have added two you know, as an axis next to this, going from top to bottom with intervention degree of management, going from like a, I don't know, certain number all the way to 0. So,
well, that's nice feedback. Thank you for that. Yeah, and I totally agree, because also on operational level, just like John mentioned, if it's about manipulating or even giving them the sense that they can choose their own tools, but it can only be the tool that is on your mind, that doesn't work. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
All right, good. Any other comments or questions? I only have a few more slides. All right, so yeah, well, we talked about what it's not. So we talked about all this complexity stuff. So what can we do? All right, I have this term called complex adaptive systems. And basically what it means is that I kept referring to an influence as opposed to, you know, being able to, you know, manipulate or whatever. With influences, we see some examples of how we can adapt. We can adapt, and I refer to the term bio teams as nature adapting. So for example, I have this anthill here, right? It's a big complex network that is just adapting to the environment. And this is due to just simple rules in the environment that are allowing the team to adapt and self-organize. Okay, here's another example. A beehive. Okay, as far as we know, no one's telling the bees how to make honey, right? They might be telling the bees to make honey, but no one tells them to organize in a honeycomb. No one tells them how to organize their caste system, right? They have drones, they have worker bees, there's a queen, right? But there's just simple rules in the environment that influence behavior. And this is how we can influence our environment to help teams self-organize. Here's another one that we're familiar with. Birds migrating, right? Simple rules are influencing behavior. There's a reason why they migrate. There's a reason, or several reasons, why they migrate in that shape, right? Simple rules are dictating behavior. They have adapted to migrate in that shape to help them with their efficiency, right? We can help teams do that also. Here is an American football game just before the game starts. People are assembling into the stadium and they have tickets assigning their seats, all right? But there's nothing telling them how to get into lines. It's just those arches that you see on the left side of the stadium there that tell them this is how you enter into the stadium to get to your seat. Simple rules influencing behavior, right? Here's another example. Okay, traffic jam. On the left there, you have a traffic jam. On the right, you don't have much of a traffic jam. But notice on the far right, there's cars that are entering into this highway here, okay? It's just simple rules like those signs, simple rules that are influencing behavior, okay? That's how we can help a team to self-organize. This is an example of the perfect family dinner, right? It always happens this way, right? So still, it's just simple rules that are allowing this family to have a nice dinner together, okay? That's it. Just simple rules for self-organization. And here's one we might be familiar with. This might look simple on the outside, but this is actually complexity and adaptation at work. Just simple rules that are allowing them to get to a done increment, right? So bottom line, as I kept saying, it's all about simple rules to direct behavior. And we're just directing and guiding. We're not being manipulative. We're not being sneaky. It's just simple rules. Having a good environment, having an open environment, has some positive and negative influences, as we both know. Right? I refer to this term bioteams. So teams in nature. Nature provides those rules. So in Agile teams, our leadership, our enablement, our role as an Agile coach or a Scrum Master helps us direct the team to have simple rules to direct their behavior and allow them to climb the ladder if they can. Okay. Any questions about that stuff? Does that help clear up some of the questions? Yeah, like I kept hammering there, and thanks for putting that in chat. Simple rules. That's all it's about. All right. So shall we do our exercise then?
Yeah, I'm thinking out loud, looking at the time. We have 30 minutes left. Do you think it would be good to do the self-organizing exercise?
Let's try that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay.
So you want to go ahead and you want me to stop sharing? I'm going to stop sharing so you can go ahead and set it up for us.
Yes, please.
As soon as I figure out what there it is. It's on my other screen.
There it is. Yeah. So what we are going to do now is, like we promised, you are going to experience self-organization, right? And luckily in this case, we don't have to go into the breakout rooms, which will be fun, but we do want everybody to unmute themselves after my explanation. Unmute yourself so you can have the discussion, because this is what we're going to do. We were discussing on how do you make sure it doesn't get into chaos, right? How can you make sure that everybody knows can self-select? And we're talking about boundaries and guiding principles. And let me just give an example. Like we have guiding principles, and guiding principles are actually rules that is for everybody, right? And the boundaries boundaries are items which are team specific. Right? In the video, you notice that how do you say, there were some people holding this A4, and that was their profile. Yeah, so that with that profile, they can have a look and see if they are fit within the boundaries. So what we are going to do in a minute, we're going to share the link as well. We want you to self-organize into teams. So the guiding principle is equally divide continents across the team and group size of 4 or 5 members. Yeah. So there are some boundaries per team, and we want everyone to create a profile where it says your first name, the color of shirt you are wearing now, and which country you are from. So together we are creating this profile, and this is ultimately what you need in an organization before you can self-select, is you need to make things transparent. We need to know what we are talking about. And Anita, what you mentioned, obviously, if you want to change stuff, you need to look at, are we having the guiding principles and the boundaries so that they can self-select. And we now have place for 6 teams. So that's what we have decided now. So the first team has at least 4 different continents, right? The second one is we want 2 blue shirts in this one from Asia continent and 1 professional from Africa. In this team, we don't want any white and green shirts. This team, we want to have all the colors of the rainbow. I didn't even think if this fits the 4 and 5. I don't even know how many colors there are in the rainbow. Are there 5 or 6? Oh, 7. Okay. All right. So all colors from the colors from the rainbow. In this team, only colleagues from Europe, professionals from Europe. And for the last team, there are no boundaries. Yeah. So anyone can go in that team.
Can I ask a question? What do you mean equally divide continents?
Like we want to have in each team. No, sorry. So besides the 4 different continents and Asia and Africa, we want to have the rest of the continents. We want them to be equally divided. Or actually, now that you tell me, this is actually not a good thing. This is not a good guiding principle. Thank you for mentioning it.
It sounded very confusing next to all the blue post-its.
It is. Thank you for mentioning this. So, what would be a good guiding principle that would meet everybody? Not thinking out loud together with all of you.
You have to be human.
Have equal male, female. Well, even that doesn't make sense if you have less females than male. Have equal distribution. Not that there's one team only with all females and other teams have 0. Something like that.
Yeah, so equal distribution of sex.
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds like a boundary, and same like group size. I would say ground rule is you can only move your own profile.
No, that's something else. Those are like the behavior things, what we want to do. So you don't want to move other persons to a different team.
Yeah.
Have the discussion. So that's actually a ground rule. You only move your own item. So if I want Julia, for example, I say, Julia, I think you have a yellow shirt. Maybe you can go to all colors because we don't have there. Oh yeah. Okay, let me move mine. Yeah. But for the sake of the exercise, I will remove this one because we have not made transparent in our profile which sex we have. So that will make it very difficult. So if we have boundaries or if we have guiding principles and we don't make them transparent, then people cannot self-select as well.
And I have another question. When you say continent, is that where the people are currently based, which they identify in, they're born in, which of continents you want them to choose? Their favorite continent to go on holiday?
Yeah, for the sake of this exercise, we are currently in now. Right. And let's see how long it will take you all to self-organize into these teams.
Zirian, we can only belong to one and only team, I assumed. Is that correct or not?
That is correct, because we cannot split ourselves.
And we know what context switching does to teams and individuals.
All right, no multiple belongings. All right.
Yeah.
Nothing happens when you context switch, right?
Oh, you're right. I forgot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to move John to somewhere, but somebody has clicked it, so it's impossible. Maybe somebody else can move him.
Oh, that's one of the ground rules, Anita. You cannot move cars from anyone else.
Oh, where was this ground rule written? It wasn't written.
Well, that's not written. Exactly. That's a very important one. We just came up with a nice guiding principle, which helps for all the teams. So only in one team. So, and then we can eventually validate if that's correct or not.
We have too many people from Europe.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I think I'm the only one from North America.
Can easily change our continents.
I'm happy that this happens, because if you talk about your own organization, right? Does it happen as well? That you don't have the skills or don't have enough people?
Yes, so we don't have enough people to fill 6 teams of 4. So which one would you like to drop?
Exactly. And maybe that's the thing, but the question is, okay, so what are we going to do now? Are we going indeed to drop one of the teams? Or are we going to say, well, actually, we have some vacancies now. Me as well, right? And
There is another possibility. Also, rules are made to be broken, Zirian. So we might also decide to get out of the system and a meta level and just change the rules. It's also a possibility.
And that's where the Scrum Masters, we as Scrum Masters and leadership come in. You cannot change the rules now, not during the game. We have these guiding principles. We have these boundaries. If we get new insights, then we can change them.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, very useful to give stability to the system, to give them constraints, and then when they need support, that could be considered an impediment. They cannot move on, and then somebody else takes over responsibility, because if things go wrong, you don't want to be blaming the teams for changing the rules, which happens.
Yeah, imagine what would happen if we change the 4 continents to, okay, well, let's set no boundaries here as well. Well, the whole idea is we selected this because we think with this setup of teams, we can manage our goals. And if we change it, then we are just making sure people are in teams but ultimately we should reach some kind of goal.
Also, making alignments impossible with people who think we're working to alignment. I mean, we're just shooting them in the back. They're relying on us. Yeah.
Oh, exactly, and this is something that I think now kind of we're stuck. This is where you have the discussion, and we do multiple rounds to see what happens, and you presenting it. But the whole idea here is also, you know, we need to make transparent what is going on. We need, because now we at least know we don't have enough people to fill the 4 continents. So the purpose and the value that we were supposed to deliver with these 4 continents is not possible. Oh, okay. I would rather know that now than when we start and change stuff. So looking at this one, so 2 blue shirts, 1 from Asia, 1 from Africa. So we have Andreas from Asia, and Maru is from Africa. So this one, we have 2 blue shirts, Paul has blue, and Andre has blue. So this one fits beautifully within the boundaries. And let's see, only 1 and 2, group size 4 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So now we have a fully functioning team regarding that one. And we can continue like this. So here we made things transparent to see how are we going to address. Right? Because usually it can happen as well. Within self-selection, you might find colleagues who don't feel comfortable being in a certain team. Okay, let's make that transparent, because I would rather have the discussion now than when I force you into a team and then blame you why you haven't reached your goals or the organization goals or the team goals. Yeah, because I'm not motivated to be in a team. Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good thing. Right. So looking at this and also at this simple exercise about self-selection. Actually, there's a really nice book on self-selection. There isn't any book on self-managing or whatever. That's why Jordan and I are creating one. But there's a really nice book about self-selection, and that's from Sandy Mamoli and David Mole, Creating Great Teams. If you want to read a book on self-selection, you should definitely read this one. It's about puppies. No, it's not about puppies. So let me log this one. Yay. Yeah. So then you know how if you are really interested in the self-selecting, you should definitely go and have a look at that book as well. It's very beautifully written. Yeah, so any questions so far about Scrum Teams and self-organization? Maru, which link do you want to resend?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you posted the link to the book in the chat.
Oh, no, maybe, it's I put it on Mural, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a question that bothers me a lot because it's something I've never seen a good solution for. Is the frequency at which teams should reform.
Mm-hmm.
I assume, I mean, I would expect there is no answer to this, no one answer, maybe some thoughts or some principles, some field tactics on this. Is if you stay the whole time in the team, I mean, at some point, there is no life anymore. I don't know. It must be a personal thing, but you need some dynamics. You need some blood, some new blood. You need some energy. Some people might like stability, though. I don't know. Yeah. Any thoughts on this, Tyrion and John?
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. So I heard you say at what frequency should you form the team? Do you mean by initially forming or?
Not changing the team, like reforming. Like I don't know if there is any studies on this, anybody try to see how really high performing teams, how often they reform. You know, you have new members, like 25% new people every 2 years, something like this. You know?
Yeah, I think really, if we go back to the ladder, my experience is that when say a mission changes, or if some kind of strategy might change above the team, then that might be a time to reconsider when you would form the team again or change its members, right? So it's something that's going to influence the team that you might want to change it. My experience recently was this pandemic. I saw teams reforming a lot. You know, and you know, the other things is, you know, when it's not working out for like one team member, you know, those kind of things, you know, they change pretty frequently, I would say. You know, it depends, like Zeren was saying, you know, it depends on like management constraints and HR and the fact that, you know, the personality conflicts or something like that, that changes quite often. I would say as you go up that ladder, changes less frequently. That kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it gives me a lot of thinking pointers. Thank you.
And one thing I want to add to John's story is, you know, is it up to us to change the team? Shouldn't we make things transparent and allow them to come to a decision like, okay, maybe we need a new composition of a team, or we need new skills, or we need whatever. But again, that all depends on where you are at the ladder. Dimitri?
Well, I would like to share that besides the thing of changing environment, changing people leaving and joining, and making it transparent, another one that I frequently see is when the work change that the teams are working on. When they find, you know, the product is growing, or we say, wait a second, we really need to do a bit of more work in an area which we haven't, that they may want to say, you know, we need to spin off a separate team or reform out of the existing 4 teams to build 5 teams.
Yeah.
Right, something like that. You know, the change of the nature or the composition of the work.
Yeah. So
demand that changes, stuff like that.
Yeah, the focus changes, or you get a different customer segment or a different product or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
You do get some timelines, which we typically don't want, but let's be real. In real life, there are always timelines. When some timelines may change, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, thank you, James. Thank you, Dimitri. Any other questions? Anything we can help you with? Any insights? Anything you want to share? Right. Okay, let us just do 2 things. I will share my screen here as well for you, because we as Scrum Facilitators, we are a community organization as well. So we have a Slack community, and you are all welcome to join the Slack community, because the Slack community contains professionals who have joined our classes, either virtual or face-to-face, or professionals who we have seen and engaged with during meetups. So you're welcome to join our community and ask questions and be involved and stuff like that. And you're also welcome to join one of our next classes. So that's one thing. And John, you have something to share as well.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So I have a session coming up on scrum.org on November 9th called Ask a PST. So this is a chance where you can ask professional Scrum trainers questions about Scrum that are on your mind. I believe the session is 90 minutes long. I'm actually going to see if I can find the link and drop it in. I'm doing it with a colleague of mine. His name is Ben Thorpe. If you'd like to join, I really welcome it. We really have some, it's very well attended. So that's the registration link on the scrum.org site. So check it out.
I will post it on mural as well.
Oh, yeah, I'll go ahead and let me send that to everybody. So there's the link for the registration.
Very nice. Right. Okay. Well, if anything comes up, feel free to contact us on LinkedIn or on the Slack community or whatever. And thank you so much for joining our meetup. I hope it was worth your time. And if you have any feedback, please let us know, and love to see you in one of our courses or the next meetup.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't sent a Slack channel. Have you posted a link?
Let me post the link as well. Why not? I will post I will post the link on the Meetup email as well. I will create a Meetup email and I will post the link there.